Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to almost end of all the technical session, and this is the last technical session. What we thought to incorporate this session is that we have almost discussed everything about the technical aspects, but what about the strategies, what is happening in the other aspects of risk management? We thought that if somebody with a great experience can talk about the OECD, which is model convention on which most of the TT's principles are based, then what are the India's initiative to receive the information from all over the world as to where the tax has been evaded by either Indians or non-residents, and what are India's reservation on such model conventions and model commentaries. And we could not have thought a better personality than Commissioner of Income Tax, Mr. Sharma, who has a great deal of experience on OECD and other aspects, and therefore we thought that's the right personality. And I therefore request Rashmin Bhai to introduce the learned speaker of this morning before we go for the mid-test session. And before Rashmin Bhai introduce, sorry, we can we would like to present a memento as a mark of love and affection, and may I request Hitesh Bhai to do the honor. Rashmin Bhai.
Friends, we have this healthy tradition of learning from the profession as well as learning from the department. And Mr. Sanjeev Sharma, Commissioner of Income Tax, he would be one of the best person to tell us the department views. And it is said that when we want to prepare for a case, we should know both side views, then only we can make the best preparation. Mr. Sharma has taken this advice to a great extent. He has himself done LLM from Vienna, and in Vienna you really get global knowledge of international taxation. He has completed that LLM, and then for 3 years, more than 3 years, he was with OECD. So again at OECD he has got global knowledge of how different tax systems work, and now he has come and he is department's representative in ITAT exclusively for international taxation. So I think we have got the best expertise available within the department. Right from the early days when he joined the department, he had keen interest in academics, and his work was so good. His seniors, wherever he has gone, his seniors have given the best reports for him, and one of his senior, Mr. Hassan, is here to confirm, yes, Mr. Sanjeev Sharma was, he at OECD, he has done, and as you are all aware, that G20 has given assignment to OECD to work on transparency and base erosion and things like that. Mr. Sharma has worked a lot on that, and today that has become a hot topic. So let us hear this hot topic from Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, for you.
Yeah, good morning to all of you. It's my really privilege to be here. In fact, I had 3 regions, but now 4 is added, and that's the foremost, that I have Sri W. Hassan, who was my commissioner when I was here working in Mumbai. In fact, Mumbai I have worked for 9 years, I was in investigation directorate, I was in TDS for 4 years, I was in 2 years in transfer pricing before I shifted to Delhi. So that is one of, but most important is that to meet all of you, because I consider Mumbai is really, I consider when I come, I don't feel that I am in different place. So it's that way Mumbai is really very, very dear to me. And I like, when Rasmin and Naresh, when he proposed, I said yes, but let me have the approvals and all that thing. So that one. And one more important thing that but I have achieved here in last 2 sessions. It's really a learning experience that how that like Motorwala's presentation, then Sanjay's presentation, because Sanjay I have been interacting from the days when I was here. But it's really good to know that how the issues are being looked into, and these are the budding who are just in the might be the just coming into the profession. Then how? So this really to know, because like it's really good for me to even to learn. So it's a learning exercise wherever you are, means whether you are already in the profession or you are beginning in the profession. This is a tax field, international tax field is such like this, the way we are evolving. If anybody of you is having the IBFD subscription, then if you see on any topic, you see the case laws. So 90% of the case laws are from India and 10% is from the rest of the world. Okay, so this is the way, the way, why we contribute such type of case laws, why it is so, because we are very litigant. Because we consider that because see the way even I have seen of course my topic is like that, but I will speak 5 minutes on that. Because really that, because what we consider, we take all responsibility on us. Whether this is a foreign company thing or anything, we take responsibility that we are responsible for foreign company also. It is not the case. Because I have been in Paris for 3 years, 1 year in Vienna and nearly 8 months in Germany. You in local press you don't see such type of things. Local press you don't see the tax things, because for them it is, tax paying is a habit. This tax is a part of the cost of just you pay to the employees, same is the tax. So tax is not a different thing, because what we feel here that if tax is being paid, this is going to the government. Okay, but government is providing for everything, all infrastructure, all social services. From where it will come? If the tax is not paid to the government, if the government doesn't get the revenue, from where the money will come? So tax is a part of your, just you eat, as you go for your vacation, the same is tax. So tax need to be paid, whether this is an Indian company or foreign company. It should not be effort that how the tax can be avoided. And that has happened because you see that developed world is developed world, because I have been there, because I was the only brown person, there was no black person over there, only brown person to be in all the assemblies and all. The first and foremost motto or the objective of the developed world is to maintain the prosperity whatever they are having. Because if you see the prosperity they are having, the way they live, the way they do it, so they just want to maintain that prosperity at any cost. Even if you see that, you see the indicators, if the indicators they say, if it's a employment has come down from suppose 900,000 to 800, now from 900,000 to 1100,000 suppose has become the unemployed, it's a big cry. But in our country, just think of might be 60 crores are unemployed. So that's, for us issues doesn't matter. For us issue matters if it's a Nokia case ruling against Nokia, then it will be headline. If it's a Vodafone case, it will be headline. We are not really concerned with our own country, that how we are suffering. So tax is a tax if it is, so that's because what message we send by doing this, that the foreign companies or in the foreign world, the outside world, they say India is very easy. In the sense as far as tax is concerned, no need of paying the taxes, ultimately we will win. So there will be tax cost, it's not cost in the form of paying the cost, but it will be cost in the form of resources cost, stress cost, all those things, certainly it will be there. Okay, so I think it's the habit of even all foreign, because I have been there, I have been interacting with the foreign companies there, when they ask, okay, you are from the Indian tax administration, what is your view on this tax? Okay, you tell me, that if the same thing has happened in UK, whether you will pay the tax or not pay the tax. So forget that, because all countries are having that different ways of taxation. Okay, so the developed world is having, suppose, taxation, residence-based taxation. My colleague was, I think, no colleague that to Mr. Motorwala, when he was saying that, I don't understand why this Article 12 is in the treaty. I think that was one. So Article 12 in the treaty to say the certainty that this royalty is taxable in the residence country. Had it not been there, this is totally uncertain where it will be taxed. So it's a certainty over there. So what the developed world functions? Developed world functions on the certainty. Taxpayer knows that tax has to be paid. There is not much uncertainty. If you see the even case laws, whatever is there, 80% or 70% of the cases the taxpayer loses. It's the tax administration which wins. Because why they wins? Because if aggressive tax planning is looked into very badly, if they look into that this tax by making such type of artificial splitting and all that thing, splitting the contract into 4 people advise that, if such type of thing is caught over there, they'll punish like anything. I can tell you a case of Netherlands which we were discussing in Hungary when there was a conference. So the person from the Netherlands who was there, he says that like VAT fraud is a very big fraud, carousel fraud in those countries. So if suppose you purchase a boat, luxury boats, some of the people in India also have those luxury boats. So if you purchase a boat, those are billions of dollars, millions of euros. So if you calculate the VAT as 20%, it is a very high cost. So what they do, okay, I purchase boat in the Netherlands entities. Okay, the Netherlands entities that in turn will be owned by the Cayman Island Company, then Cayman Island Company in turn will be owned by the Bermudan Company, and then Bermudan Company will give on lease to this person in Netherlands. It is his money, but it's just circuitous route. And using the, so what they will say, okay, so what the tax administration did, they went to the company where this was being manufactured. Okay, so they also, so for manufacturing, there who was giving the furnishing order, who was giving the money, all this. They say this is a wife person, the wife of the person who is using the boat now on lease. She was coming all the time to give the furnishing order and all those things. So these are the things on that basis the Netherlands Supreme Court held this all this circuitous arrangement is all nonsense. Okay, this is the Netherlands person who has got the boat constructed and using, he need to pay the tax. What happened? The boat was lying in Italy that time. Okay, so Netherlands authority issued a order to the Italian authority to seize the boat there itself. So boat was seized, and then the person, because see, none wants to come in newspaper for negative publicity. That person paid the tax, penalty and even compounding to avoid the prosecution, and that case is not reported. But in our case, if they say only 5,000 rupee tax demand, that may also get reported in the that's the reason. So because that's the reason I say we are litigant society, because we show it that is something, and if we do that something is coming in the favor of the taxpayer, we'll okay, it's very good case. And if it is in favor of the department, it's unfortunately that happened because that was not a wrong decision, that was not a correct decision. Okay, so if the decision is Ansaldo case, I was okay, so might be, I don't know, then I will be doing this might be having 15 minutes extra. Sanjay gave me 15 minutes extra, so let me utilize it. When I was in OECD, so there was a colleague from Italy, Francisca. Okay, it's a tax administration in Italy, she was working with me. She said, Sanjeev, that case of Ansaldo I was looking into when I was in Italian tax administration. Can you tell me something? Why this was all this? Why the Indian tax administration held? Because they were in the mutual agreement procedure, and how to solve that case? Because once you are caught, High Court is against you, ITAT is against you, which competent authority can say, okay, we lose the tax, we will not tax in India? No competent authority can. So she wanted to settle that case, that somehow tax is paid, no penalty, no interest, and that the thing. So I said, just look into Ansaldo case, what had happened. That there was a long correspondence between the foreign company and the Indian owner, that how to split this contract. And that splitting was based on the advice given by someone from India, that if you split the contract, If you split the contract, then we can speak. Who has evolved these terms of offshore, onshore? You search on Google, offshore, onshore, it will come only to India. It is not here in the world. Okay, so I'm not, this is really a pity. Who has done all these things like copyrighted article? Copyrighted article is only used in US for their copyright purpose, and they use for the sales tax purpose. That is for the sales tax purpose, because you know the US, they have the states, and states also have the taxation rights. So they use now that copyrighted articles, one paragraph, someone, our learned friends here, they quoted one article to the ITAT, and now this is becoming the Supreme High Court also confirmed that order of Infrasoft or whatever. So if you say copyrighted article, nowhere in the world is being used, only in US. Okay, and we imported only a select portion to say. Now you say our case, that Tata Consultancy Services case, that was with regard to the AP Andhra Pradesh Sales Tax Act. Okay, so all these interpretations, so whatever you feel good, you just try to converse them. Who is losing? Foreign companies could have paid the taxes here, they could have credited that tax if you say from the beginning that you need to pay tax in this country. So if there is certainty, then the tax can be deducted here, paid over here, and the foreign company, why foreign company could get benefit? Like Nokia contributes 20% to the GDP of Finland. Okay, so if you raise a tax, their Prime Minister, Finance Minister, President, everyone will come to this country say why you are taxing it. Okay, so please everyone need to really keep in mind that tax is very important. And now see, then you might have, if you I don't know whether Times of India, Economic Times or anyone reported, when the Guardian came out with the reports, that was last summer. Okay, or even the Swiss tax case came in April 2008 or April 2009, that UBS bank case, or the Liechtenstein LGT bank case, those were reported very widely over there. And because of that, you see how the world is moving. Now there is a tax transparency initiative. There's a worldwide forum is there. Then everyone, G20, if you read the G20 communique, which is issued for the Petersburg, that thing, you see there's a particular 3-4 paragraphs on the tax transparency and how to look into this BEPS project. So very small thing, like those two banks, Germany authorities said, okay, my persons are having the unaccounted bank accounts in the Switzerland, and let us do it. US, they send their 10-15 internal revenue service officer to sit in Switzerland to get that information, and they took the information, even forget the banking secrecy or anything. Okay, so that was the case. Then now latest this Guardian which reported this Starbucks, Google and all those, what type of taxes they were evading in UK? Anybody has learned that? What type of taxes? What was the mode of avoiding the tax? What was their modus operandi there? Tell me. Because we read so much, because when Guardian is reporting, it might be, I don't know, because that we don't report. The modus was very simple. Like Florist case, we have decision against us. Okay, I will say this was so much criticized in the OECD or other countries because that was against them. Of course, taxpayer won, but it was against the developed world. Why, I will tell. So this Google's case, what happens that you know the Google advertisements and all that thing, that is the one source of revenue for them. So they say UK, like Google or Starbucks, they have lot of sales in UK. Okay, the payments are made by the UK companies for getting their products advertised, or even sales of Starbucks or that thing. So once you are making the payments, then say when we are making billions of sterling, not billions, whatever, might be 1 million, 2 billion, or millions of sterling to this Google, how much tax they pay? How much tax Starbucks pay? So there was a parliament committee, they said these people don't pay any taxes. They are running since many years. Where the tax goes, tax do not go, the payments go to Ireland, and they don't pay tax there also. So Ireland is having 12% tax rate. So then we should know that how other countries are working. Like Ireland, they have a private ruling system. Netherlands is having a private ruling system. You go to tax authority and you can, between you and tax authority, you can come to an agreement that this company will not be paying any tax in Netherlands. Okay, so that is the situation. Here we see that, okay, if a company of Netherlands, they are neither paying tax here, nor they are paying tax in Netherlands, money goes to Cayman Island, Bermuda, ultimately it goes to the pockets of the owners of the company. It doesn't go anywhere. So these companies, top 100 companies of the world, they pay effective tax rate of 3.5%. Just 3.5% tax. And who are the losers? Losers are mostly the developing world. Because the such type of EPC contracts and all, you load all the profits to the offshore, just keep only that much which is able to just fulfill the requirement of the Indian work, and that's all. No need of paying, even onshore will not be paying any tax, and offshore there is honorable Supreme Court to help them, that because but the sales were made outside, payments are, see, payments for the offshore cannot be made inside. Everyone says principal to principal, offshore payments made outside, everything is gone, nothing is taxable. But this is not such simple logic. So now, looking to all these things, when such hue and cry was made, okay, so I come to Google again, because I just get straight. Okay, Google. So Google, what they were getting the payments from the UK advertisers, but not paying the taxes. So what was happening? They were having the huge sales team, which used to contact the persons in UK. They used to get the advertisement, that agreement done, final terms and conditions and everything, and later on, that person in UK used to sign the agreement, and who will sign the from the Google side? That will be sent by internet just to Ireland, and one person is sitting in Ireland who puts the signature. So signature is being done because in Ireland, so income accrues in Ireland. It's not because agreement, so that we are doing in India also. We say contract is not entered here, contract is in. How can anybody tell? I tell even, you tell me which person had gone to US or UK for signing the contract there. You tell us. So just because you go, so that is the start. So this is the base erosion and profit shifting project came up because of the Google and Starbucks not paying taxes in the UK. So then there was a G8 summit, and UK had hosted the summit. So Cameron was very much say that these companies need to pay tax in UK. We can't allow these companies to pay not tax. Why Netherlands should benefit? Why Ireland should benefit? Why the tax havens should benefit? We should benefit. See, if India does the same thing, then you say this is India is anti-taxpayers, anti-investor, all these things. And when you do the same thing, they say because my base is being eroded, tax base is being eroded. So this is the Sanjay Sanghvi's time. Now I come to... No. Okay, so now please, in fact, I am not supposed to give any department's view. I was not giving department's view for this also. I was just giving that how the world looks into taxation.
Can I tell one incident? Yes. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
You know, we argue so much in India, and huge lot of litigation takes place on substance versus form. In USA, there was one gentleman who transferred a lot of money to a discretionary trust created in Bahamas. Bahamas is a tax haven. And when the demand was made from that gentleman that you have to pay X amount, he said, I have no money. All the money is there sitting in Bahamas, the solicitors are the trustees, and I have no decision taking power, so I can't transfer any money to USA. Now you look at the substance, you look at the form. In India you could argue up to Supreme Court. There the court said, ask this man to sit in the prison, he will be jailed, and only when the money comes from Bahamas we will consider whether to release him or not.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my topics were very neutral topics. It doesn't have the taxpayer or tax administration. It's the way the means now non-intrusive base of doing the investigation. Okay, this is because so how to do it? Because if someone says that, see, my contract was entered into such and such way, split. Now the tax administration is coming to a position that we will ask first to the taxpayer that please, taxpayer or the Indian person, that how this has happened. If no, okay, please don't give, because we just send 2 letters to you. If you don't give, now the mechanism is available. There is an extended arm of the tax department. It's not only tax department of India, but tax department worldwide, that we seek the information from our counterparts in other countries, and from there you get the information. So what is exchange of information? So this is exchange of information for tax purposes. No other purpose, that I will come later on. So I will touch these 3 topics on this. One is what is international standards for the exchange of information. Second is what does this is Global Forum on Transparency in Exchange of Information, and what is Indian perspective, how does India gets benefit by this, or how India is involved in these things. Because you might have seen that when we had this case going on in the Supreme Court on this Liechtenstein bank accounts cases, that confidentiality issues, that information has come in about the persons who are having bank accounts in these countries, Standard Chartered Bank in Geneva and all these things. So this is in connection with that only. It's very important to understand, because when we say that, of course, please don't, when we say that let us bring the money back, okay, so whether money can we bring, can you send your MiG-29 or something like to there and say bring my money and I keep and bring it back, or there is a mechanism for that. Okay, so this is, I'm just dealing with that mechanism, that what the international standards are. International standards are in the Article 26 of the UN Model Convention, or in the Article 26 of the OECD Model Tax Convention. I will come to that, what the standards are, what type of information can be asked for. And then there was a 2002 Model Agreement on Exchange of Information. This was developed by the OECD along with the other financial centers, you know, which we used to call tax haven. This term is not being used now in international parlance. We just say financial centers. So those people assisted this 2002 Model Agreement on Exchange of Information. What it provides? So there need to be existence of mechanism for exchange of information. What is mechanism? See, if the tax administration wants to ask information from the taxpayer in India, then you can either ask on 142(1) or during the proceedings under 143(2), or one can issue summons under section 131. You can issue 133(6). That information can be asked. But whether can you ask the information from someone outside your boundaries, outside your territorial jurisdiction, whether you can send any letter outside, that is no. No tax administration is having any power to obtain information from the taxpayers located, or any person located outside the country. So what is the mechanism? Mechanism is that all the information is asked through competent to competent authority basis. Suppose a ex-officer in Mumbai wants to ask information about any bank account in Switzerland, then what he will be writing to the competent authority who sits in the Delhi, there is a joint secretary FTNTR. He in turn will write to the competent authority of Switzerland, and the Switzerland competent authority will write to the tax officer, or whatever way mechanism of collecting the information is there, and that is the way information comes in. So no information comes direct from person to tax officer can write it. So there has to be a mechanism for exchange of information. And what is this mechanism or exchange of information? It can be tax treaty, the country might have. So like with financial centers, so-called tax haven, we didn't have any tax treaty. Anybody can tell why don't we have tax treaty with Cayman Island or Bahamas or Bermuda or anyone? Anybody can respond? Why don't we have tax treaty with them? Yeah, why don't we have tax treaty with tax haven countries? That I am saying, why we don't have?
Because India will be losing tax.
Yeah, because first of all they don't have the tax system, and otherwise it can be used as a treaty shopping. Okay, if you have with one like Mauritius or one, that can be used as a treaty shopping. So we don't have tax treaties. So in that place, when the tax treaties are not possible, then there is another instrument has been developed that is called Tax Information Exchange Agreement, TIEA. So now we have around 13 agreements with these such type of financial centers. More agreements are coming in, and might be that in the near future all the financial centers will be covered by the Tax Information Exchange Agreements. So the Tax Information Exchange Agreement only deals with the information exchange. It doesn't deals with any allocation of taxation rights or anything. Only thing, so this difference between TIA and DTC is this. So then we come to, so there should be mechanism. So one is DTC. If no DTC, then TIA. If no TIA, then there's a new instrument has come in. It's called multilateral convention. Okay, that is called Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters. This was developed by the Council of Europe and OECD. That was developed in 1998, but it was thrown open to all the countries in the world July 2011. Yeah, July 2011, and India was the first country outside the OECD and Council of Europe to sign it and ratify it, because we want more of automatic exchange of information. We want more of exchange of information with the countries with whom we do not have the tax treaties or TIA. So this is a new instrument which has come in the market, in the international market, and till now 63 countries have signed. So my take is that even if we do not have the TIA or DTC, still we can obtain information through that mechanism. So these are the three mechanisms as of now for obtaining the information for the international exchange of information. So this is the availability of this instrument. Then this standard calls for that you can ask information only on request. This is the standard as of now, international standard. So one need to ask information on request, and one need to justify that this is foreseeably relevant for the purposes of taxation of this purpose, for implementing the provisions of the convention, that is tax treaty, or for the purpose of domestic law. So this is the minimum satisfaction required by the competent authority by sending the request. So what you need to give, you would give to name the name, address of the person, what type of information you want. That's the reason you cannot make the fishing inquiries. Okay, you cannot say, okay, all Indians, this is the list of 1.25 billion people are test. Okay, and then I'm sending to Switzerland and give the information. No, it's not possible. You have to ask the information with respect to a particular person. So as of now, standard is that, but we are moving towards the automatic exchange of information. If time permits, if you want, I can tell on that what is that move going on.
It is very important, automatic and simultaneous.
Yeah, okay. So might be in the last, if time permits, then certainly I will cover that. Okay, so as far as India is concerned, while being in the OECD, when I was doing the reviews of countries like even Netherlands, or I did nearly 14 reviews, UAE, Netherlands, Hungary, Liechtenstein, San Marino, Jamaica, then British Virgin Island, Marshall Island. I did 15 reviews when I did. So then I came to know that how strong our system is. Okay, our system is very strong because we have the company law requirements. Because what is there? Then if information can be exchanged, when that information is available. So in financial centers in UAE, information is not available. There is no requirement to keep the information. So when there is no requirement to keep the information, then the person will not be keeping. In fact, yesterday, somebody was telling to me that, in fact, it was a very good question came up, whether the foreign companies are required to keep the accounting information in India, and particularly when they are covered by the section 44BB and all those things. So once you are covered by the simplified or the presumptive rate of taxation, because there is no requirement. So it could have gone very much against India in the Global Forum review, but those assessors could not understand. I was knowing, but assessors could not understand there's a big gap. Okay, so it has to be, the information must be available. And what information must be available? In respect of all type of entities which are allowed in the country. Like we allow companies, partnership, trusts, whatever. In respect of companies, you should have the shareholders information. In respect of the partnerships, you should have the information on all the partners. In respect of the trust, you should have information on the trustees, on the settler as well as the beneficiaries. If suppose foundations not in our country like Liechtenstein, they have different type of animals to do these things, so they have different type of requirements. So in respect of this, one should have the ownership information. Then should be accounting information, and accounting information means financial statements can be prepared of the company based on what entity, not company, based on that. And also there should be a requirement to keep the underlying documentation, all contracts copy, all invoices, all vouchers and all, because anything can be asked. So this is the minimum standard, and this information must be kept at least for 5 years. So this is the, as far as the availability of information is concerned, so this is the standard worldwide, this is being implemented now. Otherwise there was no requirement. In many countries there was no requirement. Because you know the offshore business is just like that you just register in my country, you cannot do business in my country. Okay, so if all these financial centers, tax havens, there is the international business companies, if you see, you can only register in my country, but you cannot do any business in my country. That in Mauritius was also some companies like offshore business companies like this. Okay, so in such type, even Mauritius also, they didn't have the requirement. GBCs 2, Global Business Company 2, they did not have the requirement of keeping the accounting information. So Global Forum came very heavily on them, and then they put the requirement to keep that information. So accounting information must be available, ownership information must be available. Then another element is this information must be accessible to the authorities. And you know that throughout the world we have the tax system. There are many countries in the world, might be 60 countries in the world, which do not have the tax system. They don't have any taxation, income taxation, no corporate taxation. So who will collect that information? They need to develop the mechanism that someone can collect that information. So UAE, United Arab Emirates, failed on this count. They don't have any system. They can't obtain. So first there is no requirement for keeping the information. I was the assessor for the UAE. They did not move to phase 2. We failed them in the first one. That you don't have the requirement to keep the information. Your information cannot be asked. There is a bank secrecy. Okay, so because of these things, you don't move to, I will come what phase 1, phase 2 means. Okay, so this is the requirement, that there should be mechanism to obtain the information. Then there should not be condition of called domestic tax interest requirement. This means that I will provide information to another country when that is useful to me also. So that was earlier this was the requirement, but now the requirement has been done away with. Even if that information is not required by you, you need to provide. So on this basis I can say like still banking secrecy is in Switzerland, Austria, Belgium, Luxembourg. These 4 countries still have banking secrecy for domestic purposes. That tax officer cannot ask information about the bank in those countries yet. But if the information is asked by the foreign authorities, they need to obtain and provide. So they say this is just like I work for others. We can't do. So when we interact with the tax officers of those countries, it's a really pity that we can't use the information for our own tax purposes, but we need to provide. So even all countries are thinking of somehow doing away with the banking secrecy for that purpose. So there should not be secrecy. Secrecy can be corporate secrecy, banking secrecy. Professional secrecy is also very important in other countries of the world. In our country, that information can be obtained from the professionals, but in other countries they claim the attorney-client privilege, and based on that information is somehow doesn't come in. So then there is a definite parameters, means is a defined scope of professional secrecy is defined, that what extent you need to provide, what extent it can be considered confidential, and it need not be disclosed. Okay, so there's if you are interested, you can read the Article 26, read commentary on Article 26, read this Model Convention of 2002, Model Agreement, commentary of that, all is available on the internet free of cost. Okay, so you can read it, it's very good documents. So secrecy should not have. Then respect for safeguards and limitations and strict confidentiality rules for information exchange. So respect for safeguards and limitations means that if there is, some countries have the notification requirement, that if any information is to be sent to the foreign country, I need to tell the person that your information is being sent. Okay, so this is considered as within the standard that notification is necessary. But in some countries, like in Liechtenstein, information can't be sent till that notification is settled till Supreme Court. He may go on litigating. So that's called, it can affect impede the effective exchange of information. So that should not be. Am I making complicated, or is okay? It's okay. Okay. Then confidentiality rules. You know that we had the case in Supreme Court. that some information was obtained by the tax authorities and that the persons wanted that information should be made public. No, that is not possible, because we are bound by the confidentiality rules in the tax treaty that information can be used only for the purpose of tax and only the persons who are dealing with the case. It cannot go to anyone. If it goes, you are violating the international agreement and they can terminate the agreement. It's a very important thing, because confidentiality of the privacy of individuals is very important in the Western world. It's very important. Might be we discuss everything in public, but they don't discuss. They don't want. No information can go to public. It can't be asked. Tax-related information cannot be asked for in any purpose. This is very specific. Even a husband's information cannot be given to the wife. Both have the separate tax returns, that is only for them. Okay. So confidentiality is very important, that whatever information comes in, we need to keep it confidential and used only for the purpose of tax. But there are some means improvements are taken place, that if both the countries agree, and in the other country also that information can be used for other purposes like Prevention of Corruption Act or for other criminal proceedings, then the information can be shared, but the other countries must agree for that. Without that it can't be done. Okay, now come to the second, Global Forum on Transparency and Exchange of Information for Tax Purposes. So you know the tax havens history. In 1998, the first time the list of tax havens was prepared, and 2002 this agreement came for the exchange of information and also for the purpose of tax transparency. So earlier the emphasis was to name and shame these countries. You are tax haven, you are untouchable, you are doing bad things. So there was a lot of hue and cry among themselves. We are very small countries. If we don't offer such type of regimes, how we will survive? So that was the concern, because otherwise there is no agriculture, there is no fishing, nothing. People are living. So that was the reason that financial centers were developed. Okay, minimum we will have registration fees or something like that. Some of my people get employment. I am not concerned whether you collect tax or not. I am giving tax-free regime. Okay, so those countries, so the movement is started. Okay, so because the taxation is the sovereign right of a country. Whether India is having 25% tax rate, or Estonia is having 10%, or Ireland is having 12%, or France is having more than 40%. This is the sovereign right of a country to have the tax rate. But it is not the sovereign right that you provide secrecy, you provide opaqueness, you have means no requirement of keeping the information all. So that's the reason that this tax transparency issue came out throughout the world, that there should be that information should be available wherever it is. So this global forum was created, in fact, in 2001 with the OECD and the financial centers. But it was once this April 2009 London summit happened of the G20. That time it was decided, because that time was the financial crisis also. So that time it was decided that this tax evasion is also one of the most important factors which has affected the integrity of the financial system. So it was decided to restructure the global forum and open the memberships to all the countries in the world. And India was one of the first countries in September 2009 when this meeting was held in Mexico to join. So now we have 121 jurisdictions which include G20, OECD and all financial centers, and 12 international organizations are, so those are members and these are the observers which continue. This is a truly multilateral forum. This global forum is truly multilateral forum where these countries work together to increase the tax transparency, because ultimately it leads to transparency as a whole, to increase this thing. Then they have been entrusted with the implementation of the international standards and creating a level playing field. So international standards we have seen. So this is the job of the global forum, to see that whole world is tax transparent. The information must be available, information must be accessible, and they should have legal instruments. None can refuse of having a tax treaty or TIA. No country in the world can refuse. Now this is the standard. If somebody asks for a tax treaty or a TIA with you, then you need to sign TIA. Otherwise you are blacklisted. Okay, so this is the tax transparency, that thing. So they have been entrusted with the work of implementation of these standards, and there is no place should be in the world where one can hide the assets. No place. That is the ultimate thing. And taxes must be paid wherever due. If tax is to be paid in one country, it needs to be paid in that country. You cannot shift the taxes to other country. That is the thing. Now, what Global Forum is doing, so it was created in September 2009. They started functioning secretariat in April 2010. I was part of the secretariat from April 2010, and we did the peer reviews of the countries. Also, what peer review means? Peer review means suppose 3 persons sitting together, 2 looks into the affairs of the third. Okay, so this is just like internal auditing type. I do yours, you do mine. Okay, so these are the peer reviews where it started. So phase 1 review is just look into the legal and regulatory framework. You look into the company law, tax law, we have SEBI law, other countries have their Financial Services Commission, all those things. So look into all these things to see whether these standards are met as per legally. And then phase 2 is to look into in practice. You go to those countries, we visit those countries to see how the information is obtained, how the tax officer or other person works, what are their impediments and all, have meetings with the so that is called phase 2. So till date 124 peer review reports have been issued, and which includes 52 reviews which are phase 2 review, where the practical implementation has also been checked. And those ratings of those 50 jurisdictions, including India, were published in Indonesia just last month. So the ratings are like non-compliant, partially compliant, largely compliant and compliant. And India is one of the countries which is rated very highly in the transparency rating as far as the tax transparency is concerned. We are out of the 18 countries who have been rated as compliant. 4 jurisdictions have been rated as non-compliant: Cyprus, Luxembourg, British Virgin Island, I'm forgetting 4th, I'm sorry. Panama, no, their phase 2 has not been done. So then there are 14 countries which have not moved to phase 2. And out of those 14, 6 reports were done by me. Okay, UAE, Liechtenstein, San Marino, Jamaica, and Marshall Island, Dominica, these didn't move to phase 2. So out of 14, because I was very tough in doing the review, that you cannot, because otherwise Western world just works on goodwill. Okay, if you have said something, you accept it, but we don't accept unless we see it. So still those countries have not moved to phase 2. UAE has not moved to phase 2. Liechtenstein has not moved to phase 2. And so 50 are published. Now, Global Forum, what is Indian perspective? As I said that India joined the Global Forum in September 2009 itself. India was made vice chair of the peer review group, and peer review group is a 30-country grouping which oversee all this work, and France is chair, India is vice chair along with 3 others. Then we are also part of the steering group. What steering group means? This guides the policy, how it should go onward, how the work should go onward. Yeah, as I said, Indian peer review is complete and fully compliant. You can look into this work of the Global Forum on these 2 websites. You can get lot of information about the world, because see, whenever you look into any country, it's better to know that how the country's taxation system is. That is sometimes it will give you very good knowledge to compare that how we work and how other countries work. Like I can tell you, when I was in Netherlands, so I was meeting the Secretary of Finance. I was 8 days in Amsterdam doing their peer review and all. See, so I was interviewing the tax officer that how you obtain the information, how much time you take and all. He said this is the worst thing to work in the tax administration. Why? We don't have any powers. In Netherlands, you can't record the statement of individual, number 1. You can't go to the premises of the business premises. You need to take appointment first, and even after appointment you go, he will say, no, we don't have time today, come later on. Okay, so if in Finland, Nokia, I talked to the tax officer of Finland, so now no person has ever visited to the factory of Finland, that Nokia. If suppose those people, if they do businesses in countries, in different countries, they have those set standards. For them, a tax officer visit or a tax officer notice is a very big thing. Okay, for us it is very common. You issue this summon, that summon, because we do it. Okay, but there, this, like in Austria, they say, what is the tax evasion method in Austria? I talked to my colleague from Austria. They say tax evasion is that when the maid comes at 4 p.m. to clean the glasses, that money is paid in cash. That is the tax evasion there. Okay, so maid which gets money in cash. Otherwise, what if you pay money to the maid, then you get a deduction of 10% in your tax, whatever you pay. So some people, they pay in cash, and that is the tax evasion. That is the concept of tax evasion in those countries. And what is the tax evasion of our countries? We know it. Okay. So we need to really understand that why some people hyperact and all that. That is okay. So this information you will find. Now, what I want to say, the CVDT is taking very, very effective measures for using this tax exchange of information mechanism, and particularly it's not for the purpose of any harassment or for any purpose, just to send a message that this is the new instrument we have got. And if the information, because if you see that, because particularly with the foreign companies, whenever we ask the information, we know it, that whatever information they provide, this is filtered, and it is decided at some place that what needs to be submitted, what need not be submitted. Okay, so don't submit. We ask you 2 times. If you don't give it, we will ask to the foreign authority, and then the foreign authority will come to know how you are non-cooperative in India. So this is a very big reputational risk. Anyone, whether Indians outside or whether foreign companies. So it's very important that whenever information request is there, that needs to be provided, that cannot be hidden, because otherwise it can be obtained. So for that, the sensitization is going on in the tax department, and certainly this will be used more and more to avoid getting information. So might be the surveys are not conducted, searches are not conducted, because this might be, I'm not saying for the domestic purposes, for the foreign companies, information can be obtained from the foreign country. And if suppose when the information request go in, they will be providing here, that we know it. Okay. So now, this is my first topic, whether we have, because there are 2 more topics, or you are already bored. Okay, so this is base erosion and profit shifting, which I was talking. This is the project which I guess is a Cameroon's project. It started from Cameroon and French, So French, UK, US, all these projects, because they feel that whatever tax should be paid on those countries, that is not being paid. It goes to either Ireland, or even it's not paid in Ireland also. It's not that they are paid. It's not paid there also, because from there it goes somewhere else. So then the feeling came that let us look into what are the gaps. So what gaps they are looking into, what the tax gaps as of now in the tax treaties or in the domestic law, which needs to be plugged in. So that's the reason rightly said base erosion means tax base erosion. What tax base, you know, that computation of income. And profit shifting, how the profit gets shifted. So this is a project, refers to tax planning strategies that exploit tax gaps and mismatches in the tax rules to make profits disappear for tax purposes, or shift profits to locations where there is little or no real activity. So if you see a foreign company which is doing business here, if having a Bahamas, another company, you see a lot of profit is lying there, but there is no profit in India. Because profit goes through the transfer pricing, through the fee for technical services, through the managerial services and all that thing. So it's not only question of taxation, it is also question of that whether the expenses which have been claimed, whether those are excessive. So this is profit shifting, means claim of excess expenses or receipt of less receipts, means receiving less money. So that is the profit shifts to locations where this is like okay. So one can say that EPC contracts, if you split these contracts, that will come, because there's also one of the action plan that how to plug that thing. So action plan on BAPS has identified 15 specific actions needed in order to equip governments with domestic and international instruments to address the challenge. Now when you see these 15 action plans, then you come to know that these action plans have been developed or have been identified to consider the problems which